Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark. We are joined today by Dr. Rhonda James Woolard to explore how to reclaim your identity through the power of forgiveness and release the invisible weight of trauma that holds you back from your future. Dr. Rhonda is a survivor of sexual abuse who has transformed her story into a mission of healing for others. As a founder of RJW Guiding Services, LLC, she serves as a certified master life coach specializing in forgiveness and grief coaching. Her resilience is rooted in her faith, and she views her legacy as the lives she touches and the lasting impact of her work. She is the author of A Time to Heal and co-author of A Catalyst Change, along with 2 other companion coloring books, A Color to Heal and A Time to Heal to Color. Her books and coaching resources are designed to guide survivors through the 7 steps of healing and reclaiming their identity after trauma. Hello, Dr. Rhonda. How are you today?
I am doing amazing.
This is so entertaining. So when I saw that we were recording, I had to actually look again going, wait a second, didn't I already have a Dr. Rhonda? So yes, listeners, we did have a Dr. Rhonda, and she was, I believe she's episode like 44. That's what it is. Episode 44. If you want another Dr. Rhonda, but here's Dr. Rhonda, but she spells it RHONDA. So welcome to the podcast. I am so happy you're here. And actually, I'm really glad that we're talking about the topic that we chose, because it really does have to do with a few of the other past podcasts. Let's try saying that 3 times fast, that we've done. And one of them was about grief. And now we're going to put it on the forgiveness of, when we're grieving or when there's something that occurs, how to forgive those around us, or maybe even, when we talk about today, it's forgive ourselves as well. So thank you so much for this. And if you can tell our listeners, how did you become a life coach? And I know with your bio, it's a little sensitive topic for some people. So if it is, by all means, listeners, if you cannot continue listening, that's okay. No hurt feelings here. But I know that this is going to be a sensitive topic for some people. So by all means, but how did you become a life coach, Dr. Rhonda?
Well, interestingly enough, it started off with a Facebook post. I answered a Facebook post. Vanita Council Howard, she posted asking for women that had either been sexually abused or were victims of domestic violence to collaborate on a book. And I answered that post. And as a result of collaborating with that book, I had to deal with the trauma that I had been through with my sexual abuse. And also through that, I had to go through a process of, I had already forgiven my stepfather, who was the perpetrator, but I had not forgiven myself. And I had to go through that process. So when people started reading the book, A Catalyst Change, that I co-authored with Vanita, they started saying, that's what I felt, or that's what I wanted to say, or thank you for what you wrote. And I found out that I had been living a life of being 2 people. I was that strong and courageous person, that bold person, but I also was that very isolated and broken person. So I decided to take that strong and courageous person and to be a voice. And I started finding out information about coaching. And since forgiveness was a premise in terms of my healing, then that was the area that I wanted to focus on. And I also wanted to focus on grief because it tied with forgiveness also. Because there is a part of grief is a part of it too, of letting go.
So when you were writing this book and when these people were reaching out for you, were they coming to you with the same incidences that happened to them? And I don't even know if incidents is the proper word for that. Like, I want to be, obviously sensitive to the topic, but the same things that happened to them, is that why they came to you, or was there other reasons and it was just the forgiveness and the grief part?
It was because they had been sexually abused by someone
Gotcha.
in their life. They had not gotten to the forgiveness part, but they had been sexually abused.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
they had not verbalized what they had been through. And I think especially people that knew me felt comfortable by me being able to speak out my truth about what I had been through, made them feel more comfortable about sharing what they had been through, because there were people that came forward that I didn't even know that had been sexually abused.
Yeah, well, because it's a lot of people, it's a shameful thing for the victim to be, open about it,
Yes.
because, people around, because it's usually, as you'd said, it was your stepfather, and I'm sure a lot of them, it's somebody that was close to the community, close to the church, close to the family, close to whatever. So it's like, no, I could never, see them doing that. Oh, you're just making things up. And so it becomes a shame part of their life.
Yes. And the guilt, shame and guilt
Mhm.
are associated together.
Yep. And it's so crazy how the victim is the one that holds that, while the perpetrator literally can just move on with their life and just continue on to the next one or to the next one, et cetera. And then that person has, the victim has to live with that, and then has to go through all of these, like you were saying, the grief, the understanding, and then somehow getting to a point where you forgive them before you forgive yourself.
Yes. Because for me, my situation was different because my I was my mother and my stepfather had two other children.
Hmm.
And so I felt like an outsider in the household. So I craved attention. So there was one point in time that I kissed my stepfather back. So
Hmm.
for over 40 years, I carried that secret. And even as an adult, and I'm a social worker also, and I work with children that have been I have worked with children that have been sexually abused. I have over 20 some years of child protective services experience. So even though I had that professional
Hmm.
mentality, still with that personal, even though I knew what was true, I was still stuck in that mentality that I was to blame, that I was at fault for what had happened to me, and that I was at a part of it. So a huge part was not being able to forgive myself. So I had a whole lot of shame and a whole lot of guilt about what had happened to me.
So in the many years of, obviously you got to a point where you can forgive yourself and stuff. What did it take for you to get to that point where you could forgive them, let alone what did it take to get to the point where you could forgive yourself?
For him, it was easier because I was brought up in the church, and I was brought up, like, again, I was brought up in the church. And when my stepfather, he was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And when he was sober, he was wonderful. He was a great father, he was a great provider and everything. When he sexually abused me, it was when he was drinking. um Also, he was in Vietnam. I don't know if that had anything to play into that. He was adopted. I don't know if he went through any trauma as a child himself. And when he was dying, I remember in the chapel, I had asked God not to let him suffer. And that was the first time that I heard God's voice. And he told me that in my house, there are many mansions. So for me, it was a spiritual part that made it easier for me to forgive him, and also the type of person that he was when he was sober. I knew two people. And then again, as I said before, the spirituality.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was obviously when he was dying and stuff like that. But with you, what was it that allowed you to start to forgive yourself? Was there something that you're like, listen, I need to let go of this. Was it the mindset? Was it like the emotions?
It was
What
the
was
book. It was the book. It was when I co-authored the book, A Catalyst Change, because I began to face what happened, because I had never, ever told anybody that secret. And when I released it and shared it in the book, it was if I had unburdened myself with that secret, and it lifted off of me. And then I was able to move forward.
So was it like literally like once you read or wrote the book, once you realized that, okay, this is now going to be public, this is now going to be, was it like the major weight, like emotional, like metaphorical weight off your shoulders going,
yes,
oh my goodness, this is now public.
yes,
This is now something that I can talk about. Now, what
yes.
were like after it was published, did you notice any correlation besides the women that came to you and told you their stories and stuff? Was there any correlation to how your life continued to go on after you lifted that weight? Was it more of a positive effect or?
Yes, it was more positive because my mental health improved, my physical health improved. I started setting boundaries within my family, because I also learned that how I dealt with my family was also a result of my sexual abuse. Because I learned when it came out that I was being sexually abused, that I felt like I didn't matter. And so I was silent within my maternal family. When things would come up, I would be silent, even though with other people, I was very vocal.
So did you notice a difference even in your family dynamics once that
Yes,
was opened up, and how did that change as well?
it was very difficult for predominantly it was more difficult for my mother, for her to deal with, because she felt like I was blaming her more so. So that was an adjustment for her. I think for extended family, there were a lot of people that did not know what had happened. There were people that were like, they just didn't know what I had been through. They didn't know what I had been through.
Okay. And then what about, did you notice even in like your friends circle or anything like that? Because again, even in the church, because once something like this comes out, it can go one of many ways. And I know of a lot of people that they get, almost shunned out of the area because because like you're saying, he was fine. He was great when he wasn't drinking. And in the church, they didn't know him as the one who was drinking. Therefore, they only saw the good part of him. So did you
No,
notice?
I think that wasn't the, I don't think that was the case, because he had been dead for so many years. And so I don't think that really was a factor in terms of him. I think it was more of the focus of that people didn't know what I had been through, or I think they were more, how could that have happened to me? I think it was more of, how could that have happened to me? They were more amazed about how strong I was, how successful I was. They were more amazed about where God had brought me, how God had brought me through. They were amazed about my courage, about speaking out and sharing my story. I don't think the emphasis was more on him. There were some people that had that mentality. I wish I had known. I did have one individual that did share with me that he was a little flirtatious, with her.
Mm-hmm.
That did come out. But the focus was more on was actually mostly on my strength. And I think that's because he has been dead for years, and I'm the one that's here.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good because again, that's one of those things that, a lot of the victims have issues with, is just telling their story, because they're like, what if I'm the one, like, because we've seen it many times where it's people have turned on that person going, no, I couldn't ever see that happening with so and so doing that to somebody. So you're lying. You're just trying to get the attention. So just like going back to, as you were as a child, people might have thought, but I know some people that have gone through the same, like similar things, that they weren't believed. And it was like, oh, you're just trying to get attention. No, he'd never do that. So I'm glad, and I'm so glad that you were believed and that people were, supportive and saw your strength in coming out to tell this story, because this is not something that is easy to tell, because that means that you have to talk about the fact of how, vulnerable you were in the situation. And then you saying, admitting that, you kissed him back. And that's the part that, you had to forgive yourself for. So that's a big, huge, like hurdle that you were able to go over and stuff. And then from that, did you notice that once this book came out, once all that stuff and people were coming towards you, what was it, the same thing that they hadn't forgiven themselves for it mostly?
I think that people hadn't even gotten to that point. I think that people had tried to put, the people that were coming to me and sharing their stories had tried to push it back and to forget what had happened to them. So I think they were at a different stage than I was at. They were at the point where they needed to face the truth about what they had been through and to start talking about what they had been through.
So is that the first step? You allow them to talk about what had happened to them in order to, gotcha. And then, so I know, because this is such a sensitive topic for some, what were some, steps that you did? Like, okay, so they try and tell the story, and then they, I know our bodies curl up, or like, just depending on what you're doing, your body reacts before your mind and your mouth can figure it out. So were there things that you noticed that a lot of the people came to you? Did you notice that it was almost as if it looked like it was an actual weight on their shoulders, or a weight, like just the way that they carried themselves also was affected?
Yes, I think being able to talk to somebody that had been through something similar, not necessarily the exact same thing, but something similar that could relate. Because you remember previously I said that's what I wanted to say, or that's how I felt or that helped them for someone else to be able to vocalize, and for someone else to be able to feel comfortable enough to share, and to be able to let them know that if you start talking about what you went through, the more you start talking about it, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy. But the more that you talk about it, then you start taking back control of your life, and it gets easier talking about it. And not only that, not only are you taking back control of your life, but you are helping others also.
And that is so huge, because again, it's that when you're in that situation, you're giving, like you feel like you gave away a part of your body, part of your soul, part of your mind, your emotions and stuff like that. So you know, telling them like, hey, let's talk about this. The more we talk about it, yeah, it's going to be more uncomfortable, because as they talk about it, they have to live it again. They have to relive it. Their body is going to relive it, their mind, their emotions. So the more you do that, the more, like you said, they get to take back that control, and they are in the, the driver's seat of their life again to decide, okay, no, my story does not end here. My story gets to continue, and I get to be the strong person that I am. So have you found that when they get to that point, so they've talked about it for a little bit, but they're still holding on to it. They haven't forgiven themselves yet, but they're still holding on to the story. They're kind of like, yeah, I'm talking about it. I'm continually talking about it, but I still don't forgive myself. Is there a particular like dynamic or ritual, if you must say, or whatever, that helps them to get to that point where they can forgive themselves?
So I developed the forgive framework, and F is face the truth, which we talked about, and O is open your heart to healing, and R is release the weight, and G is grow through grace, and I is identify the impact, reclaim your identity. V is voice your freedom, and E is embrace the new you. So there are steps that you go through, and through those steps, sometimes you might have to go back to a previous step. So it's not, so healing is not linear. So sometimes sometimes you can go on a straight path, but sometimes you have to come back to another point. So you have to deal with the shame that you have been with, the shame and the guilt. You have to confront the lies that you have told yourself, the lies that maybe you have heard. You have to realize that you are not the blame for what has happened to you. You have to give yourself grace. That means it's okay. Today is not a good day. It's okay. Pick yourself back up. Reclaim your identity. Voice your freedom. Take back control of your life. You have a right to move forward. And embrace the new you is when you get to that point, whether you forgive yourself, it might be the perpetrator, or it might be forgiving yourself. The benefits and forgiveness is not for that person.
Hear that, listeners, again.
Forgiveness is not for that person. Forgiveness is for you. And it has so many benefits. It makes your life so much better. It makes your quality of life better. It makes your mental health better. It makes your physical health. It improves your relationships. It your career. I mean, your metabolism, your blood pressure, lowers your blood pressure.
Yeah, because all of these physical symptoms and everything are a manifestation of the emotions and the things that you kept bottling up. You didn't tell your story. You didn't hold you weren't able to tell the truth.
Yes.
And then so your body, same with if we are ill or stressed or anything, our body is going to absorb that. And then all of a sudden we're going to find ailments inside our body because of that emotional, everything we've kept emotionally, and we've ignored it, or we just haven't done anything about it. So when they don't tell their story, they probably have a lot of ailments within their body as well.
Yes, yes.
So
Your
have you know,
weight,
so speaking of
whether
that,
weight gain or either whether you gain weight, lose weight. In my situation, I was able to lose weight.
there you go. You just actually answered my question before I even asked it. And that's the thing. Like, so with a lot of people, and stress or this kind of, ability of like holding it into the body, no matter what it is, look into it. Look into what your body is trying to tell you. Because again, it could be the head, the neck, the shoulders, the weight, the stomach, the knees, the feet, whatever it is. Our bodies are telling us what our minds cannot understand. So like telling the story and being able to verbalize it is one way. Like you're showing these people that no, here, let's release this weight of what's holding you back. Because like you said, like your body changes, your career changes, your relationships, all that stuff changes and shifts when you're able to let go of that. You're able to state what happened to you as if it's a fact, because it was a fact, as opposed to holding it with that guilt and holding it with that shame. Because again, as somebody who this has happened to, you cannot, understand at the time that no, this wasn't you. This wasn't your fault. And especially, like, I know you were saying you work with children too, and having, children that happens to, they don't understand. They don't understand these things, but they're going to blame themselves because, oh, well, that's an adult, or that's, my uncle or my father or whoever it is, or even my aunt or my mother or whatever. Like, I know we just genderized this, but regardless of who it is, it's the ability to be able to actually tell somebody and continue to open up about that situation that, like you were saying, is going to take that weight off, that metaphorical weight. But sometimes it's also going to take that physical weight off, like it did for you. So after this was said and done, and you're, a couple of years past writing the book and it becoming public and stuff like that, and the people that you've been helping, when they get to the point of, okay, I'm starting to forgive myself, but then they fell off the bandwagon. Like you were saying there, with the forgive, there's steps they might have to go back down to the first one. Is there, after they've, accepted their new identity, they're moved on and stuff like that, their situation, does it come back and, let's say, in dreams or in ways that they're like, what? Why is this coming up again?
Yes, they can be triggered. And actually, most recently, someone asked me, how long will it take you to heal? And my answer was, it's a lifelong process. You will never be completely healed. And that is because you can be triggered. There can be a situation that can occur that can trigger you. Remember, I mentioned you can have some good days and some bad days. There could be a situation that you thought, oh, I have dealt with it, and it can come back again and it can trigger you. And that's why when I said I developed the framework so that individuals can have a resource that they can go back to, so that they can go back to the area that they need to go back to and work on again. Even if they've got to go back and start to the beginning, or if they need to start on open your heart to healing or give yourself grace. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes we have to realize that it's okay that I'm stepping backwards. It's okay. This is expected. It's okay. It's not that it's a bad thing that I'm having this trigger. It's not a bad thing. That means this is just something I just got to work through. I'm going to work through this, and I'm going to be better, and I'm going to be stronger for it.
And do you find when it's, okay, so they've done the initial and they had something that triggered it, do you find that they actually go through that framework quicker once they've realized, okay, I've stepped back a little bit, I've fallen off the wagon or whatever they want to call it, but I know what I'm doing, because now they've done it once and they can do it again. And do they go through it a lot easier and faster, do you find?
It depends. It depends on, again, if they give their own self grace. If they beat their self up, it's going to take them a little longer. But if they give their self grace, then they will move. They will move through quicker. So it depends on the individual.
Gotcha. We had a podcast episode that I just recorded, and she kept saying, well, it depends. She's like, I was like, that's what I'm going to title the thing, because it does. At the end of the day, no matter who's listening, you may have gone through your own situation, and it does. It depends. Even with my clients, it depends. Like decluttering, it depends. Are you doing the mind, the body, the soul, or the home? Are we doing something that somebody else is going to help you with? Are you, do you have your family on board? Like, so everything, yes, it does depend, but there is that factor of being able to be more aware of, what's going on. And each time that happens, or each time there's a trigger, it's like, oh no, okay, well, I see what's happening. And if they give themselves that grace, which I know a lot of our listeners are very selective at giving themselves grace. They give everybody around them grace. They can, do that forgiveness for everyone else, but it's themselves, because they're so hard on themselves, because they're very much the high achievers. No, I can do this. I just got to push through it. But that's not what this is about. This is about recognizing that, no, it's okay. It's okay. I've got this little hiccup this day. As you said, there's good days and there's bad days. So what is something that when they are having one of the lower or the bad days, what is something that they can do in order to give themselves grace?
So journaling is something, finding something that they really like. For example, something that I like to do is to dance. Also prayer, meditation is something that they can utilize. Not only in addition to coaching, I do strongly recommend to also utilize therapy also.
I am a strong believer in therapy. One of my really good friends is a therapist, that she does a lot of like healing for others, people and stuff like that. So like a therapist, if you are a therapist or you've gone to a therapist, like fantastic therapists. I don't know how you guys are angels, earth angels, I swear. To be able to take somebody and take their story and hold it with such grace themselves, knowing that they can't even hold it that way, but you as a therapist can for them until they can hold it themselves. Like a therapist, man, absolutely angels, absolute angels. So when it comes to, let's say they've done the second round, or the trigger is, okay, I get this. I understand that I need to give myself grace. I'm going to journal, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to go hang out with my girlfriends, because you know what? That always brings me, up and everything like that. They still have the therapist. They talk to that person and stuff. What are some day-to-day things that they can do for themselves that would allow them to continue this without being such a, okay, you got to spend 1 hour on meditation. You got to spend 1 hour, hanging out, like
positive affirmations. They can do daily positive affirmations. And the book also has some positive affirmations in it also that they can utilize.
Awesome. And don't worry, listeners, I will be linking her book and all that other fun stuff in the show notes. And that's where those can be found. So what kind of affirmations, like just one or two examples that, just so that they can go away today, if nothing else in the podcast they hear or whatever, but what is something that would help them? Because I know some people say, like the affirmations that say for like to be a millionaire or whatever, it's like, I am a millionaire. Well, yeah, if your body doesn't believe it, then
one of the most important one is I am not what happened to me.
Can we repeat that one so that the listeners?
I am not what happened to me.
That is beautiful, because that separates you too from what happened, because you are the person. what happened to you is a situation, and to be able to separate those two gives you that bigger gap so that the forgiveness can come in through as well. So what is also one thing we're going to do the end of the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
4-pillar finish, as I call it, where they can take something away when it comes to forgiving, not only just the person that did this situation to them, but themselves in particular, because I know a lot of the women listening are very high achievers that they would rather push through it than sit with it. But what is something that they can do for their mind, their body, their soul, and their home that they can take away today to get them closer to separating them from that situation?
So something for their mind is to realize that therapy is okay. Something for their mind is do some form of exercise, whether it's physical or you can do some type of chair exercise. And for your soul, whether you can do some type of meditation, you can go to church or do some type of meditation, whichever your realm that you want to utilize. And for your home, find a safe space for you in your home.
That is fantastic. Thank you. And then one last thing, if there's something that maybe I haven't asked, or that you're like, no, I really would love to say this one tip for anyone who has been in a similar situation as myself that is learning to forgive themselves, what is one last thing that you want the listeners to know before we go?
I just want people to know that you can take back control of your life and that there is a purpose for your life.
Very good. I love that. And yes, I absolutely 100% agree that you are here. You are listening. You are part of this earth side, spirit side, whatever you want to consider it, for a reason. And absolutely. And taking back control from the situation is absolutely imperative for them to be able to continue on their healing journey. Because like you said, healing is a lifetime thing, but you can get closer and closer to it. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rhonda, for joining us today. And we look forward to, I'm sure the listeners will be reading the book, etc., and following you on socials as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.